Welcome to the Business and Bud Show. You know it's time. Start thinking like a winner when you get online. Streaming audio and video to get you primed for a future of success, a life you design. Business and Buds is the online show for people who want to learn about creating a thriving business and a thriving network. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Business and Bud Show. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Pat Hilton, Michael Bryant. It is the Business and Buds Show. We're back in the mix. What's going on, Mike? How are you, sir?
I'm doing good. It's Saturday. It's beautiful out. Got a nice little temporary podcast set up here so that way you don't yell at me anymore.
Look at this guy. He's almost like a real show host here. It's getting good. It's getting good. You're looking good over there, buddy.
Yeah, and thanks to you, I'll be dropping about $18,000 in here to finish this off. And instead of thanks to you, I'm not saying that sarcastically, like thanks to you, because like I've wanted to build the rest of this out for the past like 2 years, and I've really just kind of put my money into my companies instead. And
Which is good.
And now I am investing it back into this space, which will, be the home for our content. And we'll be able to film a lot of stuff here. And I'm going to make a nice office and a nice full blown gym in this like 1,200 square foot barn that I have down here.
Which is awesome because you'll be using that to grow your business as well.
Correct.
Because we'll have a virtual community and all that you wonderful viewers can join here soon. But we were just talking about we've talked about our addictive personalities and our, weed and alcohol and shroom enthusiasm. And while I don't smoke pot or drink or do any of that now, I'm sober now, but, I would say that for a long time, those ways, we've talked about this in the past shows. I don't remember which one, but some of those things helped me kind of break down barriers, mental barriers of just the obstacles that the world and that society places upon us and forces upon us, the limits that these forces of the world rain down upon us of you can't do this or you'll never achieve this or this person will tell you that's crazy or your girlfriend's dad chews you out in front of everybody. I mean, we've talked about these types of stories and it's like, well, I know these people are wrong in my heart and I know I got the talent because I've been working on it for X amount of years and I'm already getting paid to do all these things that I love. How do I take this to the next level? And it's like, well, you have to become the person that can achieve those results. And I used to like listen to the motivational guys at the conferences say this, and I'd be like, I don't understand what that means. And I'd be like, well, you have to be the person that gets up at X amount of hour and does this and does that and does all. You have to do all these actions day in and day out and start producing on that level for a long time before you actually reach that level of success. Your level of action and your level of mindset has to get there first.
So I agree.
How addicted, and this is what we talked about, how addicted are you to that action and to getting that result?
So I agree with you in some respect that like you have to start to exercise that discipline muscle.
Right.
However, I do disagree with you in the same breath. Like I wake up anywhere between 7:30 and 8:30.
Oh, well, it's about what you put in your time too. I definitely agree with the Gary Vee perspective that it doesn't need to be 5. For some people that is. If you get up at noon and you work until 2 a.m., that's fine too. It's what you do in that time that's going to get you the result. Right.
Correct.
So we should make that.
I mean, that's like a lot of times I don't go to bed until 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, but I wake up at
I was totally
7:30
that way
or
for a long time. Yeah.
For me, whenever my kids go to sleep and my wife is asleep and I can just sit and like work and nobody else is working at that time and it's just like me against myself, that's the time where I get the best work done, period. It's where I come up with my best ideas. I mean, you know this. I'll shoot you a text message at 10:30 at night. But like it,
and I get it at 4:30 in the morning.
correct. And you reply back to me early, and then I will get back to you whenever I wake
3
up.
hours later. Yeah.
Yeah. But like, I don't sit around. Like everyone says not to check your phone first thing in the morning. That works for some people.
That for me.
For some, if you run an online company or you want to run an online company, your phone is your lifeblood. And if you have any desire to actually get out of a 6-figure a year or a 5-figure a year thing and try and get into 7, 8, 9 figures, I've not achieved 9 figures yet. I've achieved 7 and 8, but I've not achieved 9 figures yet. However, I know that the addictive nature that I have to follow up, to making sure that like I am relentless in my pursuit and looking at my goals on a daily basis. Like I have goals written up on my mirror and affirmations, and I read them whenever I brush my teeth, whenever I go into the bathroom, and I see them every fucking day. I have them on this board right here.
That's a great way to do that. Yeah, I do too. I have
written up
board right there as well.
Yeah, and I have these things written all over the house. My background on my phone, like for the past 6 months, I just changed it to a family photo, but my background on my phone was literally a Grant Cardone thing that said, earned income buys passive income buys toys. And it's just like trying to ingrain that shit in my own brain because I have to learn these things myself. Like oftentimes I make a good bit of money every month, and oftentimes I'm like, oh, I just want to spend it on something else. And instead I'm like, you know what? Maybe I'll spend it, but I'll spend it on Bitcoin. I still have it. It's an investment. I'm spending it. I'm getting it out because I never want to have, and this is the different philosophy than Dave Ramsey has. But in my opinion, Dave Ramsey is a great entrepreneur. He's a great financial guy, but he's not a great entrepreneur as a whole. But being able to save up 6 months and then anything after you have over 6 months, you're putting into investments every fucking time. It keeps you hungry. It keeps you motivated to do more because you look at your bank account and you're like, oh, I only have X amount of dollars. Everyone's monthly expenditures are different. My monthly expenses are pretty fucking high. So it's like you're trying to figure out all of these things, but like having more than 6 months, I think just makes you feel too comfortable and in your own skin. At least I know that it does for me. I get lazy. If I have 12 months in my bank account, I'm like, I'm fucking good. I don't have to do as much today. But if I get it out of my checking accounts and I get them into investments that are creating more cash flow for me, then I'm like, that's what I need to be doing. So I'm addicted to that. I used to be addicted to blow and hookers. Like I fucking loved cocaine and strippers and fucking snorting coke off of girls' assholes and shit. Like that was like my jam. I fucking love that. And now I got two little kids that I got to worry about. Instead of that, I haven't touched blow in fucking 8 years, probably 9 years.
Great job, Mike.
Thanks. And now I just like, but truly you have to be able to pivot those like cocaine and uppers and those sort of things. That was what I really enjoyed. But like, you have to be able to I'm always going to be an addict, right? I know this. Like I got addicted to getting fucking tattoos. I have them everywhere. I have a Chinese food container with like I'm just fucking dumb. Like I have dumb shit all over me because I was addicted to getting tattoos. But now
I love Chinese food. Chinese food.
Now I am addicted to building another pillar of revenue. I want as many deposits coming in a month as I can possibly take. Like my ideal world, I'd be getting in 150 deposits a month, 5 a day, every day of the week, forever. Like that, and I revenue sort of stream, and that's what I'm addicted to building right now versus trying to push it up my nose.
Yeah, and I think that's a good thing. And
Did I lose you?
I still think no, you're good. So I still think the Kung Pao chicken, tattoo is cool. I've never seen that before. That's a new one to me. Usually it's like, dragons or snakes
I
or
also got
swords, crosses. I don't have any tattoos. I'm way too big of a wimp to get
ham
tattoos.
tattoo.
I'll just readily admit it. I like needles and stuff like that. Yeah. Mm. No.
Dude, I fall asleep. I literally fall asleep while I get them.
I can barely even do like a shot.
You mean like a flu shot?
Yeah, like when they got to take a shot or they got to take my blood, I'm always like, oh my god,
That shit
not
don't
that
bother me a
bad,
bit.
but I mean, I don't like it.
Don't bother me a
Not
bit.
my thing. Now I think tattoos are cool. I'm still a dude that likes tattoos. I think motorcycles are awesome. I don't ride motorcycles because I know, again, when we're talking about personalities, I'll fall off the thing and break my fucking collarbone in half. But I like watching people go 80 miles an hour on a motorcycle. You know what I mean? I still think that's cool.
Yeah.
I just wouldn't ride one.
That's fair. That's fair. And that's what you have to learn about yourself, though. The older that you get, it's all about learning for yourself what works for you and what doesn't. Because what works for me, waking up at 7:30 or 8:30 in the morning,
great,
and working until 2:30 in the morning works for me.
Right.
And I've done it for years. That may not work for other people.
Right. Well, and it's funny that you bring that up because that week that we did a bunch of episodes, my kids were gone and my wife was gone. They were back home in St. Louis visiting family. And so it was way easier for me to like stay up till 1 or 2 and wake up at 8. But now that they're back, if I'm not up at like 5, the kid wakes up at 5:40 anyway.
Oh, your kids are early risers.
My kids, the baby wakes up at like 5:40 anyway. So the 7:30 shit isn't going to cut it.
So you got to get up and get your workout in before your kid gets up.
Or at least get moving. At least get moving. Get up, make a plan for the day. What am I going to do? That it doesn't mean that I have to get started on a workout like right away in the middle of the dark. But, get moving, get started, check on, like you said, I check stuff right in the morning, emails or this is what I got to do at the day. What time do I need to do my podcasting? Like, I like to have at least a plan.
So what I do, well, on top of like the note thing that I do, I don't remember if it was Andy Frisella or somebody else who said this, but I knock out my hardest tasks, the ones that I want to do the least first. Because the ones that I want to do the least, I don't have, at the end of the day, like, I don't want to do any more of that sort of shit. I want to try and wind down or, use that time to use my brain to think of creative problem solving and things like that, and ways that we can scale and ways that we can improve what we're doing. That's what I like to use like my afternoons for. And I like to take my mornings where I'm just busting out every single thing that I don't want to do, because then I get to enjoy my afternoon. And then, so I kind of have like a work, play, work kind of schedule. I work in the morning, get that done. And then I kind of play, if you will. I don't do a ton of work in the afternoon for a couple hours. I just kind of like recharge. I may send some DMs out. I don't consider that shit work. Other people may, but like I'll lead gen, I'll do that sort of stuff. I don't consider that to be work. I consider that to be play. And then in the evenings, I go back in and then I do the rest of the work, the update from, and I figure out the strategy for the next day.
Yeah, I dig it. I mean, planning is essential. I mean, you got to execute, but I mean, if you have a plan and you know what you're getting into and you're ready to go, then that's kind of what I do in the morning is I review, what do I need to do today to be successful? What do I need to do today to perform at a little higher level than yesterday, or to improve my skills? I'm always trying to improve my skills too, on the camera, especially as an entertainer, especially. That's why I started doing those funny news skits. And we were kind of talking about that, some stuff off camera of how that all came about. I never had to think about what someone's policy was with taxes, or what state. I never cared what state I lived in and how much taxes I was paying. I just wanted to live in the beach. So I moved to California, where the taxes are the worst in the entire country.
Yep.
And so I had to start looking, well, why is that? Well, it's because people vote a certain way there and they get a certain result. What is the result and what are they voting? Okay. And then I analyzed it and I said, well, okay, well, that's not what I want.
Can I pause you?
So I went to Texas, where it's different.
So what happens whenever all the people that are fleeing California and New York, and they come to Texas, or they come to, rural areas of Pennsylvania or Maryland or wherever it is, and then instead of them reflecting and then realizing that the policies that they voted on created the problems that they are fleeing from, and then they vote the same way. What happens in that scenario whenever you take out the people that are like, hey, I don't like what happened here, but they're too fucking stupid is the reality. They're too fucking stupid to realize that the policies that they voted in are the very reasons why their states went to shit.
So let's take it back to what I was saying. So let's say 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I'm playing the guitar on the side of the road, living the dream, playing at the bars in California, making X amount of dollars a month, paying the rent barely. Let me get there.
No, did you just real quick? Did you like that though? Did you enjoy your time doing that? Was that fun for you?
Yes and no. So I'm going to get there.
Okay.
So I think at first it was awesome because it was like what I always wanted to do. And it's like what I always practiced for. And then I started to use this old thing I learned. I think we started learning it in like 3rd or 4th grade, and it's called math.
Oh, yeah.
So I started using this. It's crazy. Like you like add stuff and like divide stuff and subtract stuff. So I started to I was doing what I love to do and I was paying the bills, but then I started to use this mathematical concept to figure out how much money I needed every year to move into a nicer place. And I looked at it and I said, man, that's expensive. And I looked at how much the taxes were and how much the health insurance was and how much this was and the other thing was. And like I said, it's like, well, on this side, in this other area, AKA Texas versus California, well, I pay 0 tax. And in this area, it's 13.6%. And so, and then in this area, the health insurance is $817 a month for the whole family with, 2 kids. See, things changed.
Yep.
I changed. A lot of people, like what we're getting at, we're addicted to getting better.
Correct.
So this is going to be a hard one for people to swallow. Most people, a majority of people are just happy where they're at. And that's fine. You and I aren't. Well, we are addicted to getting better.
The other thing is
so this is almost an answer to your question. Well, how can I do the same thing and get better results? That's almost the answer to your question. So they go somewhere else, do the same thing, and expect better results. That's not how the world works.
But you are happier where you are now and changing in the way that you are creating content.
Yes. So what I had,
income, correct?
Yes.
You're happy with your evolution, right?
Yes, because I took those same skills that I'm using daily.
Mm-hmm.
I'm performing daily. I'm just using the internet now as a channel instead of relying on a live music venue to write me a check. So this is the evolution of business. First, for a long time, I was just kind of a self-employed employee. And I started to learn entrepreneurship over the course of these times. And I was kind of an entrepreneur, but not really. I was self-employed. And I always relied on someone else to write me a paycheck for a given amount of time rather than charging for X amount of dollars for a service. So I was kind of caught in the middle. Yeah, I was kind of charging X amount of dollars for a service based on how much time I serve and based at whatever their rate was that they could afford per hour. And instead, I started saying, well, I'm worth more than this.
Yep.
And if you're giving me this,
you pick your rate.
I can't afford to live.
Correct.
So what is the point of getting so good and working on myself and being addicted to success and getting up every morning and getting better and improving my skills if I'm going to continually get paid the same thing forever? So I changed that part of my mindset and started charging more and started doing more things and started using the microphone for shows. And this is just like playing a music show. I just don't have a guitar in my hand. We're not singing songs. I'm providing more of a service to you so that you can build your brand online. So I would encourage people out there to start thinking about, what can I do to service others with my talent?
Correct.
Rather than how can I go and exchange my talent for an hourly wage?
I said this the other day on Instagram, but like
all these things are related. I know we're kind of going a little bit around in a circle, but these things are related. If you don't change the way you think and don't change the structure of your attack towards where you're going, well, then you can move wherever you want and you're going to get the same results.
Well, moving around on ideas and then tying them back together isn't necessarily a bad thing by any means. It may go over some people's heads, but that's okay, because the other thing is, and this is going to sound pretty crass, but like, if you're not where you want to be in life, it's your fucking fault.
Right. And that should be enough motivation to get better right there.
Like, there is no other fucking.
How much more motivation do you need?
I was a piece of shit for several years in my early 20s and my late teens, a complete piece of utter garbage. And then some very pivotal things happened with me that are personal. I may go into them, I may not. But some things happened in my life, and as a result of those things happening to me, I had to choose how I responded to them. And once I got off of drugs, I just started reading and I started trying to educate myself. Like, I was never good in school. I wasn't bad in school, but like, I would never go to class. I would just read something and then I would go take the test. Like, I don't want someone to explain something to me. I want to read it and interpret it on my own. And that doesn't always work in line with school. So I started educating myself over and over and over again. I paid for 2 years of therapy 3 times a week, one-on-one, to get over my drug addiction and then the other personal things that were going on in my life. And I'll just say it, like, my mom got brain cancer whenever I was 18, and I had a kid at 20 or 21. I can't remember. And then I battled for that kid. It was fucking brutal, but I became addicted to bettering myself because I wanted to see my kid. And that was my why. And then ultimately, the story of that has been that I have cultivated my entire life now to be with my children anytime that I want. If you look at my Instagram stories, I'm always with my kids. It's awesome. Number one fucking. I have nannies so that I am able to have the freedom to work when I need to and put in the most focused work hours, and also have a clean house. Like, those two things make my brain function better. So I have learned that that is a positive thing for me because it yields me more money. So anything that I can do to help, that helps. So I get more money from working from home. I have someone that helps take care of my kids. So that way, whenever like I'm working and my wife is working, they have full attention. They are learning what they need to be learning, and dad just isn't on his phone and they're doing whatever they want. And then whenever I'm actually with them, I'm attentive to them. I'm not on my phone. So
and that goes back to it too. Kids will change the game for you. So, I wasn't thinking about certain.
And I don't know.
No, but it goes right back into what I was saying is that when I didn't have kids, I wasn't thinking about that stuff. I waited until I was like 32 years old to have kids, 33 years old. So I waited as long as I possibly could. And, whatever else. But, luck sometimes, you can always have some good luck in certain areas. Sure. So, well, the moral of the story is when I was doing the shit on the side of the road and I was willing to not make a lot of money for my skill, what I was really doing is underpricing my value. I was undervaluing my talent and basing my compensation off of what that marketplace had decided the value was, rather than saying I'm worth this much.
Correct.
I'm going to blow through the roof of this number, and I'm going to use my talents in a specific way to drive my numbers higher. But I had to learn that way of thinking.
Well, there's something
by adapting.
I didn't learn until 2 or 3 years ago.
Stuff took time. Like, this stuff didn't just happen overnight. So, I mean, if you're out there and you're like, these guys are just fucking rambling about this shit. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to
it's a
piece
stoner
together.
Podcast. So
it
what
is.
the fuck do you expect? Of
True.
course we're going to ramble a little bit. That's on brand. So if you don't like that, don't fucking watch the show.
Whoop, whoop,
but
whoop.
like, it is what it is. Pat and I have like a very unique way of flowing conversations. He keeps me on track and my brain just continues to roll.
Well, mine does too. We have a way of creating a nice circle because sorry, you're cutting in and out a minute, but like when I didn't have kids, it was different. Once I had kids, I started thinking similarly to what you described. I had to figure out a way to take all those skills and monetize at a higher level. And once I started looking at what the numbers actually were and how the numbers break down in the area that I lived in, I was like, well, this is not compatible. This is not compatible with the lifestyle I want for me. And this is not compatible, but this is. And so what happens is if everybody leaves California and moves to Texas and votes the same way that they did when they were in California, well, then Texas turns into California. Look at Austin.
So I guess the way to tie it back in is if you don't
Austin is the San Francisco of Texas.
So I guess the way that you could tie the whole thing back together and basically wrap up this entire episode, it'll be a short one, but the way that if you don't change the way that you think, if you aren't willing to think that you are wrong and lose your own ego a little bit, you are not going to get to where you actually believe you should be.
There's no way.
And it's your own fucking fault.
If I had such a pride and such an ego or whatever the word is that I had to play guitar to make money, I'd still probably be asking people for $5 donations on PayPal. I'm going to tell, here's one for you musicians out there. I'm going to tell you guys something because I stream. I'm going to start doing live shows, streaming shows, and just playing and just doing it for free and turning it into an album series, a live album series that I'm going to put out. And the reason why I'm not going to be asking people for donations or give me money in my tip jar is because it looks fucking pathetic on the internet. You're going to go live on the internet and sing me a song and beg me for money?
Or
I mean, that's just my opinion. I'm a musician too.
You just provide such great people donate. And then you have no idea what someone's perceived value is. That donation could be somewhere between $2 or $1,000.
It could be anything, but I personally think the digital tip jar concept is weak.
I
That's
actually
my
don't think that
opinion.
I don't think that it's weak if you just have it like set up where like people can choose to and you don't ask them for donations at all.
Okay, well, I guess that's fine.
I don't think that that's weak at all because you are literally leaving it up to the person that is consuming your content at that moment to decide if there is a value that they want to put on it.
That's fine. So maybe I'm a little outlandish with that. If I'm an asshole for that, I'll take that on the chin.
No. I'm just saying that's my opposing viewpoint.
I got it. So let me break this down to why I say that. Here's why I say that. Because when I performed at bars, and this is my perspective, and so I'll back that up with an actual factual reason for why I think it's cheap. Let's not say it's weak. Let's say it's cheap looking. Here's why I think it's cheap looking. Whenever I performed, and I did it for a long, long time at bars, paid my bills playing on stages and at bars and venues most of my life. That was most of the time. I never used a tip jar. And here's why. Because if I'm good enough, people are going to give me the money anyway. So what I would do is I would play and I would sing and I would do this. And again, it's different, I guess, a little bit online because you can just put a link and people can give you money. But when you're standing in front of somebody and you sing and you do your thing and you carry on.
Well, I'm not even saying like a link. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm saying like, let's say that Instagram just has like a button that allows you, I don't know if they do or not, but let's say that they have a button that just pops up automatically on a live feed that if you have over 1,000 followers, whatever, then you can accept donations. And if you pop up on that live feed, and even if you're just doing a Q&A and you answer a question and someone that's watching that wants to donate to you, and it's just a feature on the platform itself, I think that that's okay. You not putting
I think it's all okay. I just don't do it.
But putting out a tip jar is not the same thing. Like if you were already playing music and then the bar owner had a tip jar at the bar for the musician and people just put it in there and it wasn't you that had it up, would you still accept the money?
We're going way off topic here with this. You're missing it. I'm going to pull up somebody's fucking page right now. Somebody's about to get called out. So hold on a minute. You're taking it way, way, way off.
So maybe.
So let's say I'm not going to put him on the screen. Let's say fucking John the Singer Man is streaming on our screen right now.
Okay.
And we want to feature John and say, go buy his album or something like that. That's fine. If you want to stream on your page and say, hey, I got a digital tip jar, the show's free, tip me if you want to, blah, blah, blah. I don't care. I just don't do it.
Oh, no, I'm not saying that you should either.
So my point is that I always made more money when I never asked anybody for money at a gig.
But how
so if I sang about, what's your wife's name? Alyssa. So Alyssa and Mike stroll in, and I'm like, okay, well, I know if I can make Alyssa happy, Mike's going to be happy. So if Alyssa's happy and then Mike's happy, Mike is way more able or willing to give me money, right?
Perceived value.
So let's just talk about this and let's teach a lesson here as to why Pat's asshole opinion is what Pat's asshole's opinion is. And if you like it, you like it. If not, fucking fine. So Mike walks in with Alyssa and she's smiling. She's having a good time. And I start changing the words up just a little bit about Mike and Alyssa and how they're having a good time. And the Wonderwall and the Wagon Wheel and the Hootie and the Blowfish are all coming together. And the sky is blue and the moon is out and the ocean is flowing and the waves are great and love is in the air. And Mike's going to smoke a joint and you guys are going to make love. It's going to be the best fucking night ever. And I don't ask for anything. Because it's my job. It is my job and my calling to entertain you. But then Mike walks over. He says, dude, that was great, dude. I'll tell you what. Because this is how you get the sale. How are you going to get the sale? Brad Lee would say, you're looking around in the room. How are you going to convert? How are you going to close somebody? I'm going to pick somebody and I'm going to give them value. And then they're going to come to me and say, hey, I'll tell you what. I don't know how you knew this, but it's my wife's birthday tomorrow. Can you sing my wife happy birthday? Sing my wife happy birthday. How about I'll give you $100? What do you think?
That's pretty much exactly what I would do.
Now all of a sudden I made $100 without even asking for it. I'm
For
so
sure.
good at what I do, and I gave specific value without expecting extra compensation, even though I was gunning for the extra compensation in the first place.
Correct.
That's the thought process of that was when I started to figure out when I had $600 in a hat that is the magical tip jar. Well, I better not wear my hat anymore because I'm making so much tip money now. Who else wants a song? Now I've turned the tip jar. I've weaponized the tip jar. I made it the enemy first, but now I'm waving it in front of everybody because it's so full of money that if you don't give me your money, you're crazy.
Yeah.
That's how good you got to get at not using the tip jar to use the tip jar to your advantage. So all you musicians out there begging for friggin' $5 Venmo, what you really should be doing is when somebody comes onto that stream, you need to sing about that person. And if you like it, save it, get your screen recording out right now. And if you dig it, shoot me a message. And, you can support Buy My Record or, shoot me $50 or whatever. That'll be $50. Make a price for it.
Yep.
That's $50 there, Susie. I'll send you a link when the show's over. And I'll bet you Susie will be like, dude, that was worth 600 bones. It's only $50. Start charging people instead of begging people. Just a theory of mine because it worked for me. No, I'd walk in and I'd always wear a hat on purpose. And I'd play first couple tunes. I would play the bullshit Wonderwall and Wagon Wheel and Brown Eyed Girl. I'd get them out of the way right away because it would sucker the dinner crowd in. And then I'd start laying in fourth or fifth round. All right, now this lady's here every week. Rebecca, what's going on? Stand up for me, Rebecca. Stand up for me here. And this is when you become so addicted to getting better.
Yeah.
You're not afraid of fucking up in front of people.
No.
You're not afraid of singing the wrong thing or playing the wrong note or looking bad on camera or we're going around in a fucking clusterfuck circle. It doesn't matter because you're going to get the job done no matter what. Stand up on here, Rebecca. Bring your husband. What's your husband? What's your name, sir? Jack. Jack and Rebecca are in the house. I don't have a tip jar. I'm just doing my job. And you sing a song for Jack and Rebecca, and then Jack comes over and says, man, that was so good. How can I tip you? Oh, man. Here. Jack and Rebecca liked it. Who else wants a song? So now you've changed the conversation from, if you like what I'm doing, feel free to give me a tip, to, hey, listen, who wants to pay for a song?
Yep.
Come on now. Come on. Brad Lee would probably tell me this was the greatest 10 minutes of my entire podcasting career.
Bro, you are spot on here. So I do something very similar. Like whenever I'm
just saying, to me, it comes off as a little cheap.
Here's what
the money.
Yeah. So I do a very similar thing on Instagram, on different Facebook groups that are business related or CBD niche related, like online sales related. I will just, anytime that I see someone have a question or they post something, I'll reply back if I know the answer. Or if I can connect them with someone, I just connect them with them. Even if I'm not friends with them on there, I just do it. And what it does is it just continues to build out my network of people that like I've helped. And you never know where that comes into play later in life. And building on those relationships, no different than you watching out for Rebecca every time and seeing that she's, doing a certain thing. You're just being observant in a digital world, and you're being conscious of how to provide value for people without expectation. So
you got to change it to what can I do for someone else instead of try and force them to think my song is a hit song.
For sure. Servitude.
And also, it's the old Russell Brunson method is you got to make an offer. What's your offer? Mike doesn't just say, hey, if you donate, a little $1 or $2, I'll send you a drop of CBD oil. Think about how dumb that sounds.
No, you can go buy it.
If I'll pay for the vial of oil if you pay for the shipping. Yep. You pay the shipping, I'll send you it. You try it. If you hate it, throw it in the trash. You didn't even pay the $70 cost.
Correct. You have to take an action.
And you have to make an offer. What is your offer? If you guys walk into a room, I was in a room the other day, and again, while I may be random, I was in a room the other day. It's a lady named Sharon Lechter. If you don't know who Sharon Lechter is, Google her. Writes a lot of books. One of them, she wrote the foreword to Russell Brunson's book, who I refer to Russell. No, that was Kiyosaki. She wrote the foreword to this Napoleon Hill, Get Rich for Women. Napoleon Hill's like the legendary Think and Grow Rich. She wrote the women's version, Sharon Lechter. She's a big deal. And we were kind of shooting the shit back and forth, and she's been following me. We've done events for years together, and she was following me, and she made the observation, because we had talked about this same topic years ago, and she's like, you're so much more clear on your offer now. How's that working out for you? And I was like, dude, I'm making more money now than I've ever made. She's like, it's because you're way more clear about what you offer. Yes, you're still an entertainer.
Yep.
You being an entertainer is what fulfills you. So that's what you focus 100% on. But how are you entertaining people?
Well, we're going to see here.
Are you putting it out? So I would encourage people to get addicted to what can I offer the world? Because that's where you're going to start to change. Okay, well, how much money can I make, working at Sprouts Farmers Market compared to I can offer this to 60 people a month and I can succeed.
For sure.
At a higher level.
For sure.
You're going to move from one area to the other area. You're still going to work at Sprouts. You're still going to vote the same way. And then, people may or may not burn down your neighborhood again.
That's a whole nother episode to talk about.
So,
I think, I'm not sure, but
trends seem to be spreading.
I think we may pick up on some topics.
I went there.
We may pick up on some topics that are not always business related, but also
what's the trend?
I can certainly tie it back into business. All the businesses that have been burned down recently, I'm sure
it's bad.
It's a little foreshadowing for a future episode.
It's bad. And so what decisions are being made in those areas to change it in the future? Is it going to get better or is it going to get worse? Ask yourself that. If you're in one of those areas and you're thinking, man, I'm trying to get better, are those people taking action that will make it better or make it worse? Are you going to take action to make it better or worse?
Well,
these are like common sense issues.
Yeah, but for sure. But you just have to look at it from a super. Let's talk about it from a complete macro. Look at the things that are most important to you, like in your community. How are the schools? What can you do to help? Can you get on a PTA board? Can you donate to a cause that needs something? Is there a gymnasium floor that needs to be built and then kids can go play and that helps, a couple of other different foundations. Like, what can you do to impact your community the closest? Like, I promise you, if you live in servitude of others, I don't care what the fuck it is, whether you're making money hand over fist, as long as you are living while you are giving to other people, the more you give without expectation, the more it just comes back naturally, all on its own. It just happens. Like,
it's true.
There's a reason why Gary Vee and Bradley, they're giving you content for free to make your life better. It is free. That's the reason why I am making this content. I am trying to give you content for free that will make your life better. I don't care if you buy a product from me. I don't need your fucking money. Like, I don't.
We need you to go succeed. We need you to take what you hear and believe in yourself.
Go do something with it, though. You don't have to invest in our coaching program. There's like the people that we will have on this show, they have tremendous coaching programs. If you like them
buy
better,
Sharon's book.
But literally, if you like them better, go there.
Right.
Like, I don't need you. I don't care. I want you to go do something that will make you better. It doesn't matter if you buy something from me. I don't want your money.
Well, and it helps us get clarity to even just review these topics and tell stories and go back and forth with this and that. I figured out talking about that story. It took me a minute to figure out how to say it or tell the story or make my point, but I understand it better now because now I've gone through it and I have concrete. Make an offer. What is your offer? And what's your offer to you? What do you expect to give to the world? What is your unique talent? And how can you use that talent to serve others? And when you're serving others, how can you do it at a scale and at a level that you're catching the biggest fish? You're serving the biggest people. You're doing it at a high enough level or a high enough frequency that you're able to completely change your life and the life of others with your skill set or your strengths or your passion.
Well, you have to figure out two things with that. Do you want to service people in volume and a bunch of people that may not take action? Or do you want to service a select subset of the population that want to invest more into themselves? Because at the end of the day, the money is just an accountability measure.
Right.
It's literally an accountability measure. It is to keep you interested in making yourself come back onto an added value call with a coach. Like, that coach doesn't need your fucking, if they're actually a good coach, like Bradley, Sean Whalen, those motherfuckers, they don't need your money. They don't care about your fucking money. They are doing this because, number one, it hones in their skills to be sharper.
Well, and the other thing is that we all have problems too. So like it's just as much as they may not care about the cash, you've got to understand that what are you bringing to the table too? This goes right back to how did some goofball that played in the middle of the bar corner get on stage at 10X GrowthCon in front of 10,000 people? I brought something of value to the table. I etched out a certain period of time that I fit into the schedule that didn't conflict with anything else, that didn't have me being the star of the show. And I said, can you fit me in this time? It's perfect. Yes. Lunch period.
Anything you want to give me.
Here's the break time. Just put me on in the fucking break time and let me smash the shit out of the place. That's all I want. It costs you nothing. You're spending money during that time. You're going to play the same Kanye West playlist all day. You might as well just break up 15 minutes for me, because that camera footage and that spotlight for that time is going to change my whole career. Or I wouldn't even be doing gigs with Sharon Lechter or be on Bradley's show if that
How was your speaking engagement the other day?
Oh, it was great. It was wonderful. Yeah, we did the Mike Burt comeback tour with Tim Story and Sharon Lechter, and my buddy Victor Maya spoke. He's got a book out right now called Conquer. It's laying around here somewhere. It's a good book, Conquer by Victor Maya. It was awesome, dude. Tim Story's phenomenal. He's been on Oprah. Mike Burt, Tim Story, and myself all did 10X Growth Con 2 together. There were 10,000 people at that event. So, I mean, once you get to a certain level of trust and respect with people, and you and you focus on you and your strengths,
Yep.
dude, people respect that. People can rely on you bringing something unique to the table. You don't have to be the most clean cut, sharp, fixated on being perfect, dude. It's realness. Realness has come into play these days. And even the people you mentioned before, the Brads and the Seans, I mean, dude, those guys, they're real deal.
Well, it's being vulnerable and being open, because like at the end of the day, I don't care if you judge me for the fact that I was a cokehead like years ago.
It is funny.
Fucking yeah, it's absolutely hilarious. I had a great time. Like I wouldn't change any of those fucking times for the life of me.
But you used it as a lesson, and you used it as a way to examine your performance and adapt so that you could get future results, higher capacity in these areas that you were maybe at a lower capacity or lower than your ability.
I had to think very carefully about how I was pretty stoned earlier because I was smoking a J while I was telling that story. And I had to think very carefully about how the fuck I was going to phrase that out. Because I was like, what would Owen approve and what is he going to blacklist on the episode? Because at the end of the day, all of these have to get approved by Owen before they go out. So
Owen's got his work cut out for him, because what is this, episode 6 now? He's got about 6 hours of footage to review.
Yeah.
But we're having fun too, you guys. I mean, it's like Mike takes time out of his day. He hired me to do this. He's helping my family survive, helping me live my dreams. And it's important to remember that. What's up?
It's Saturday at 2:45, bro.
Yeah, it's a Saturday. It's almost 2:00 here in Dallas area. And it's just like, we're banging stuff out and we're having fun because we're passionate about this. Monday and later tonight and tomorrow, I'll be better because of the time I put in today on this. I'll be sharper tonight when I make fun of Nancy Pelosi for saying we don't need to have debates.
Oh my God. I can't wait.
That'll be a good one.
Literally, like at the end of the day, it matters the work that you're willing to put in. Am I willing to give up an hour and a half or 2 hours on a Saturday to film this podcast with you? Because hopefully it helps one other person not fucking be a piece of shit and take some accountability for their life. Then I feel really fucking good about the money and the time that I invested into doing this. If I get one DM that says, hey, thank you guys for making this episode and actually not trying to hide behind any, like, I have no idea what exists on the internet about me and my past. So I would rather be open and vulnerable about it, because if it comes out, I'm already in front of it. It already happened, and I'm not ashamed of the shit that I did.
Right. And it's not like
it got me to where I am now.
Yeah. And it's not like I just randomly got sober either. I mean, there's obviously a story behind that, and maybe we'll talk about that one day, but it's like, that didn't just randomly happen.
No, you had to do it for a reason.
Yeah. And so I had to adapt. I had to, like I said when I was explaining earlier, I had to look at the numbers, and I had to listen to Sharon, and I had to listen to Brad and all these people that I had been around, but I kind of didn't want to listen to them, you guys. I mean, I didn't want to give up the little guitar by the beach thing. And I was like, well, guess what, dude? The guitar by the beach thing's cool. But like, wouldn't you rather have your own little place where you could just do that anytime you want and not have to worry about the money and not have to beg people for cash and not have to sing about freaking Starbucks Sandy every Wednesday to try and weasel another $20 to survive? I mean, wake the fuck up. You're better than this.
Who has been the person that you've been, because I know that you had to replace that. Weed's not an addiction, but like, but it's a habit. So and that habit is addicting itself. I think that I'm addicted more to certain habits, and changing your habits really fucking helps. So
right.
I don't know where I was going to tie that with.
How'd you quit? How did you decide to quit?
Yeah. Like, well, so for you,
what did I replace it with?
What did you replace it with?
So I kind of replaced it with the belief and the idea and the acceptance of the fact that I can't do it anymore because I'm going to get in more legal trouble.
Okay.
So plain and simple, like I got busted, coming out of a gig in California with just shit went down. I just got busted with some shit on me. And so I had a choice to make. I can either get busted again with some shit on me, or I can not get busted again with the shit on me. So do I love doing that stuff so much that I'm willing to potentially wreck all the years of work that I put in to be successful at being an entertainer and doing what I love to do and do all this and this reputation that I've built for myself as a person and a person of character, blah, 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 blah. Do I want all that to go down the drain because of like weed or like drinking shots of alcohol? That's when I made the choice that like, dude, those things aren't worth that much to me. So that's, it replaced it with a acceptance and a thought process of what result do I want?
Yep. Okay.
Because I've got a choice to make here. And this is again, unfortunate in some ways and very awesome in other ways. You're running into a situation now that you're in control of, but it can go way, way out of control if you choose not to be in control. So when you get into a situation that is legal in the United States, you have to make a choice. Am I going to keep doing this and potentially get this happens again? Or am I just going to stop and then automatically that can never happen again because I just eliminated it? It can't ever, I can't ever possibly get busted if I don't have the shit around me.
It has no power over you. You remove the power.
None.
Yep.
And so I think that, and I'll tell you, I had to sit through a lot of meetings and a lot of all this kind of stuff. I had to pay out the ass for all kinds of shit. And, I'm sure you guys can figure it out. This isn't fucking rocket science here, but, I had a choice to make of, hey man, you want to keep smoking. And if you get pulled over or something like that, and your eyes look freaking crossed because you're wrecked, potentially lose your family and lose your business and lose everything.
Yep.
Probably not a good idea to do this anymore. Because I
feel like you're telling me to stop smoking pot right now.
Just me talking to myself.
No, I know, but I feel like you're talking to me right now, and I'm like, I'm literally evaluating in my own headspace.
Here's the mistake I made.
For me.
Here's the mistake I made is that I drove.
Mm-hmm.
I drove. So I was at a gig, partying it up, having a good time. And after years and years and years and years and years and years and years of doing something, you just kind of just don't even think about it. You just do it. Yep. And so, I drove.
Did you wreck?
No. And the thing about it is, in California, it's zero tolerance.
Oh,
so
really?
California is a zero tolerance state. Now, you can be under a certain limit and still get nailed for a legality just by being quote unquote impaired.
I'm going to piss off our California viewers here, but California sucks dick. Like,
dude, and you totally
from a law standpoint. From a law standpoint, I'm not saying like it's just terrible. Like
for being the place that is the hippie, do whatever you want, free reign place that it's promoted as.
Yeah,
that place is regulation central.
Yep.
Holy shit. They got regulations on everything. They got regulations on the regulations. That's where I got caught with a flag. It's like, dude, wait, let's just break it all the way down. You don't even need to have alcohol or marijuana or cocaine or heroin or meth or crack or whatever in your system to get arrested for driving while impaired. You could be on Benadryl or your prescription from your doctor, and you're tired and you're drowsy and you blow 0-0 and you test 0-0 on cannabinoids or whatever they're called, and you test 0-0 on everything, but you were drowsy, which is a danger to other drivers. So we're going to arrest you and we're going to charge you with driving while impaired. Talk about a fucking ramrod in the ass, folks. So I encourage you guys, again, to think about the consequences for your actions, because there are consequences for everything you do.
Yeah.
Now, where I fit into all those categories, I don't know. Maybe one day you'll know, maybe you'll never know, but that's what happened. I mean, obviously something happened.
Yeah.
Something would have to happen to you for you to stop.
Yeah.
Do you agree or disagree?
No, I've taken like tolerance breaks, and sometimes like I'll just like not smoke weed for a whole day just to exercise like a level of discipline. The difference for me is that I actually like the person that I am, because I'm typically a pretty moody guy. Right. And I'm under a lot of stress a lot of the time. And weed just helps me stay very even keeled. It helps me to actually make
nothing against anything if you can do it.
I don't like, so I'll think about a decision that I have to make while I'm smoking a joint, but I don't ever make that decision until like I feel sober again, or I talk with my wife, or I talk with my business partners, or whatever it is. I just try and think of a way to problem solve. And that's more so like, it helps me to navigate those sort of waters.
Right.
But that's something that I've learned about myself over the past 12 years or so. I mean,
well, and I think that when you, like you said, you examine yourself or you examine the situation, sometimes if you're able to just do that on your own without something good or bad happening, that's when you're really ahead of the game. So if you're listening to this and you're like, oh man, it's a little all over the place, but it's really not. This has actually been pretty consistent with how are you examining what your life looks like right now?
Yep.
What are the variables that are affecting the results that you're getting? And how can you increase or decrease something in any given area to get to the next stage, or to get to a higher income, or get to a higher level of fitness, or get to, I don't know if it's sobriety, or a higher level. I need to smoke 6 joints instead of 4. I mean, whatever it is for you.
Yep.
It takes using your head and looking at all the actual data to get there, because here's the thing, the data is going to show up one way or another.
Yep. If so, here's the
data
thing.
Will hit you upside the head.
If I noticed that I was smoking too much weed and it was negatively affecting my sales or my performance, I would curb that behavior. However, I have found certain strains that work for me, and I stay with that. It's like, it's no different than alcohol. Like, if you find a drink that you like, you stay with it. Like, it's things like that. Like, you just have to learn about yourself, and it takes time. It's not gonna happen overnight. And you just have to be willing to get back up every day at bat and try and get 1% better or 2% better than you were the day before. And if you look back in a year, you won't be in the same place that you were. I can promise you that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You won't be. It's
absolutely.
Impossible.
And if you think that you're getting away with something in a certain area by skirting around certain details, those details will come back to get you somehow, some way. If you're spending that $13 that you shouldn't be spending every month. 7 years later, you're going to need $500 and you're not going to have it because you fucked around on that $13 that you knew you shouldn't have spent here, and here. And I think that maybe that's what happened to good old Pat. Well, for a while, I just did this and I did this and I skirted it and I skirted it and I skirted it. And after a while, I was like, dude, I'm good. Until it wasn't good. And I was like, fuck, I better fix that.
Well,
no big deal. But sometimes when you get hit in that area, you're like, oh, that lack of personal responsibility when something like that comes up, when that flag gets pulled, dude.
Yep. Well, Mike Tyson.
Now you're going to increase the consequences 50-fold. Mike Tyson. I mean, come on.
Well,
he never learned when he was younger.
Correct. But he said everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. That dude's been punched in the mouth financially. He's been punched, but he's back up. He's been on a continual journey of trying to better himself and try to get better. It's just like, you take a guy like that that's been hit in the head so many times, that has been a world. He's going to be fighting again. He's like 50 fucking years old.
Yeah, he's taking on Roy Jones Jr.
It's insane. But like someone like
great
that,
shape too.
But it just goes to show you, it doesn't matter if you're 50. That dude's getting back in the ring.
He's made a lot of changes. That's a great example too. Look at what that guy. Look at where he came from. Look at how he was trained as a youngster and as a teenager to be a fucking killer.
Yep.
And then when he became a killer and people rooted him on and he won championships and made millions of dollars, he was, however you would say it, shit on for being that after a while. And then, kind of the old man Customato died and he kind of lost his mentor and kind of lost his marbles a little bit. And pretty much went way off the rails. And in my opinion, would probably have been the greatest heavyweight in the history of the world, hands down, no doubt, if he would have been able to stay on the tracks.
For sure.
When the chick got involved and he was on the skirts in his marriage and then fired Kevin Rooney, the trainer. I follow all that boxing shit. So now you're in my world. Again, he made all these choices. He changed all the things that were working for him and thought, oh, I can just get shit off in those areas and still get the same results. And it ended up, he lost all the biggest fights later in his career, twice to Holyfield and once to Lewis. If he would have won those 3 fights, he probably would have been regarded as the greatest in that generation. And he's not. He's still the youngest heavyweight champion ever and one of the most deadly punchers, but he is not the best of that generation. Holyfield and Lewis are. I like him more. He's my favorite, but he shit off in those areas and it showed up in his performance because he got his ass handed to him by Buster Douglas.
Well,
it's a fucking great example.
I did not think that I was going to hit that good of an example with that. I was just like, I said Mike Tyson, and then you were like, Mike Tyson.
He's a completely different person now. If he was sitting right here, he would say that. Yeah. He ended up fighting Razor Ruddock, who he was way better than, because they had to sell him on those fights to kind of bring back this kind of journey back to the title, and it didn't work. His head wasn't in the game the way that it was when he was coming up with Customato, ready to knock Michael Spinks out of the fucking ring at Trump. What was it? Trump Plaza. It was just a different. I'm a huge boxing fan, and I always use that. We've talked about this before. It's because it's a one-on-one sport.
Yep.
So like any of your little flaws or any of the little things that you dicked around on, this is a perfect example for today. Any of the things that you weren't addicted to being perfect at show up and work against you.
Yep. You're going to be exposed.
He was totally exposed. He didn't work out, didn't train hard, and showed up against that. That was the best night of Buster Douglas's career. And he got totally fucked up that night. In fact, he actually was so out of it that he knocked Buster Douglas down in whatever it was, the 8th or the 9th round. Buster Douglas was down for like 12 seconds, but Mike was so out of it, he didn't go quickly to the neutral corner like he did, and it gave him 2 more seconds. What are you doing, dude? Technically, he actually won, but the ring referee who's counting controls that situation. So when he was hovering over the guy and he had to push him all the way back, he lost that 2 seconds. That lost him the fight. His head wasn't in the game.
I did not
Perfect
watch that.
example.
I kind of want to go back.
Perfect example. You could literally pick that apart and almost now when you go back, you could almost see that coming, that he had reached the pinnacle and was not training the same way, wasn't working with the same people, had a fucking collapse coming with his marriage, and then Buster Douglas was it. After that, the hype train was still there, but the fire wasn't.
Yeah.
And I bet you he would agree with me if he sat right here. Probably wouldn't be happy about me saying it, but as a fan, when I look back now, you bought the fight and watched the fight because you wanted to see the old fire. But it wasn't ever the same.
I have a question for you. Would you say it to his face if you were in the same room, or would you say it over the internet?
I don't think it's anything other than based on the performance that you watch on the video. It's not an insult.
No, I know, but I'm saying like he's still Mike Tyson. Like, would you say?
Well, yeah, he would fucking probably break my head in half right now, but that doesn't change the fact that at that point in his life or at certain points in my life, the same thing has happened in my performances or in other people's performances. I'm not categorizing him as a piece of shit for that. I'm saying that certain things didn't add up at those times in his career. And I've seen that in my life too. And I hit certain roadblocks because certain things added up the same way they did for him.
I think he's gotten rid of a lot of
he was at such a big, famous level that the microscope was on him so hard that it was just way easier to categorize him as this crazy monster or whatever.
Well, I think he's gotten rid of a lot of his ego the older that he's gotten.
I think that I've watched him talk about this stuff before. So I'm a huge Mike Tyson fan. So that's a great example for even what we're talking about. Because again, I'm not trying to shit on him. When he was younger, I mean, dude, everybody's wanted to be Mike Tyson. He's the youngest heavyweight champion in the world. He was 100% undefeated until that fight in Japan with Buster Douglas. He literally beat the shit out of Michael Spinks, who was pretty much regarded as, the highlight reel guy because he had beaten everyone and had every single title. That was like the first time in a long time there was like a unification of all the different organizations. Belts were kind of like on the line that night. He beat that guy's brains through the ropes in like 48 seconds.
Really?
Like you can literally watch the replay. It won't take you long to watch. And hits him so hard that Michael Spinks was laying on the ground. You can see his eyes like roll back into the back of the head. Like, dude, it was like he fucked that dude up. Right? So really bad. So anyway, he's one of the greatest heavyweight champions of all time. But I would say as a fan of boxing, unfortunately, I would say that
Lewis or Holyfield is better.
As that generation, his generation kind of moved into the like 90s and the early 2000s. Lewis and Holyfield, once he finally fought those guys because his lifestyle outside the ring got in the way, he wasn't the same fighter.
I saw him hitting a heavy bag recently on his Instagram, and
I wouldn't want him to hit me.
It looked.
That
Looks like
doesn't
he still
change.
has it.
Again, that doesn't change the fact that him and Muhammad Ali are my two favorites. I'm a huge boxing fan, by the way. Huge boxing fan. Huge
Nice.
UFC fan. He and Muhammad Ali are my two favorite of all time. I'm not the biggest Evander Holyfield or Lennox. I wanted him to win those fights.
What do you think about Jake Paul being on the undercard?
What do I think of who?
Jake Paul being on the undercard.
Of what? Of the Mike Tyson fight? I didn't even know.
Oh yeah, he is.
I'm sure he is. Well, that's how they got to sell the fight. So why not? I don't have a problem with it. I don't have a problem with Jake Paul. I don't really have that big of a problem with anybody. But being a huge fan of him, it's sad when you look back at how the table turned and how the wheels went a little bit off the road there. A little bit.
But it's also so encouraging for life. Because
look at him now. Again, you got to also put it into context of look at the person that he became because of the mistakes, because of the adversity, because of the highs and the lows. Dude, the guy is a total 100% stud.
Yep.
Come on, Iron Mike, come on our show. But I would guarantee you, because I've watched him tell the story, that he was dicking around in Tokyo with the maids at the hotel and wasn't training, wasn't getting up at 5 a.m. and running, didn't have the same coach, Kevin Rooney, punching coach. You can go back. They do the inside the ring thing with Bert, whatever his name is, and Max Kellerman, and they're smoking cigars, talking about the fights. And you can see how bad the corner men were that night. They were totally unprepared. They had gloves with water in them. They didn't even have ice. They were fucking out of it. They were unprepared. And I've seen times where I showed up unprepared and look at the result I got. It was a shitbag result.
Well, I mean, it showed up in our earlier podcast. I take full responsibility for, not having a stationary place where I was sitting. And, now I know what I need based upon your advice, and I'm taking your advice and investing that into this area here. In the next 2 months, this entire area is going to be completely changed over, and we'll give a full tour on Business and Buds Instagram and stuff after, but it's not even going to look remotely the same. But this barn is another perfect metaphor. Until you make change and make an action, nothing will change. It doesn't happen all on its own. You have to make a decision to do.
Well, you got to do something. Yeah, right. We just said at the same time, you got to do something first. You can't even analyze any kind of performance. That's why I mean, I'm not dogging on the guy. He's still my favorite of all time. But
for sure.
Once you can go back and you can analyze what actually happened and base the career off data, the data would say, I mean, dude, these guys like Deontay Wilder that say they could whoop Mike Tyson's ass are fucking idiots. Deontay Wilder, later, bro. Tyson Fury butchered you last time. In fact, you shouldn't even fight him again because he's going to embarrass you again. So, you heard it here on Business and Buds. Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder 3. There's not even a need for it. Because Tyson Fury butchered him the first time and got hosed on the scorecard. We were talking about scorecards before we even got on here because voting. We were talking about how Hillary Clinton got 3 million more votes than Donald Trump, but the Electoral College is not a popularity contest. So while she may have had X amount more votes in punches landed in rounds 3 and 4, well, she lost 10 rounds. So she lost the fight.
Yep.
The same thing in boxing.
Yep. Or in your life.
You can win round 5 and 6, but if you got demolished for the other 10 rounds, you lose. That's how it works.
For sure.
It's based on round by round scorecards. This person won 10 rounds, you won 2. Now, you landed a lot of punches in those 2 rounds, but that's not enough for you to get the win on the overall judging.
Yep. Well, I think that if you haven't gotten any advice out of this podcast, I mean, the one fucking thing to take is action
and consistency.
Accountability, and doing it over and over and over again until results start showing up, because it's not going to be overnight.
And then if you get to a certain level that's maybe even higher than anyone's even gotten, you still have to put the same amount of work in or more to sustain that level of success. And I think this is what we see a lot of times is, especially in the music world, you get to a certain, you get a certain level of success. You sold 10 million records and it takes you forever to come out with another record. It takes you forever. And then 5 years later, no one knows who you are. It can be a devastating thing. It's frequency, consistency, and performing at that high level day in and day out.
That ties into our earlier thing too. That's the reason why I don't have more than 6 months of savings ever. I don't want it.
Yeah, because you want to create that sense of urgency.
Yep. And granted, I have it in other assets, but I don't have it in cash.
Right.
And the devaluation of cash is a totally different podcast. Completely different podcast, which we can get into next time. But I think that wraps up our podcast. At least it does for me. I mean,
it does. It does. And we wanted to relate addiction to success and all these things. And when you start getting addicted to things outside of your production, you will pay for it. Yep. I've paid for it. And even the freaking meanest, baddest, biggest champions in the world have fucking paid for it. And if they were sitting right here, they'd agree with that.
Yep. There's no doubt.
And you can't go back and fix it because you can't. Life plays out.
No, you can't go back and fix it. You just have to take the lesson that you learned from it and do better the next time, because I'm sure that same problem is going to come up in a similar area of your life later on.
In some other way, in some other format, in some other, style. All that stuff happens. So you got to be aware of all that. Beautiful stuff, man. Beautiful stuff. Get addicted to your own success, whatever that is for you guys. And Michael, as always, my friend, Business and Buds.
This was fun.